Is it possible that after 40 years we finally have a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends action figure set, even if it wasn't completely purpose-built?
Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Iceman and Firestar.
I know I'm more than a few months late to this game with these Marvel Legends figures, but it took me a while to get my thoughts under me, because Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was one of my favorite cartoons growing up, and it was an active lament as a child that they never made a purpose-built trio of action figures.
Well, are we a team?
You know it!
And how? All right.
Now obviously part of this was because Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was made before the deregulation of children's television and then was just run in reruns throughout the 80s. However, I was acutely aware that the Mego Pocket Heroes only provided Spider-Man, and then learning in adulthood that Secret Wars was Spider-Man, and then if you could find him, I guess in Europe, Iceman, but once again, no Firestar. And then as a teenager in the 90s, I was aware of the Toy Biz line, but only one recycled Medusa turned into a sort of Firestar with the Toy Fair exclusive. And then there was an overpriced Toys R Us 3 3/4 inch line, which never really felt right to me because as a child, aside from Pocket Heroes, superhero figures were traditionally larger. The Mego figures were a larger scale, the Secret Wars and Superpowers figures were a larger scale, Toy Biz and Kenner's superhero efforts after that sort of rolled off that, and now of course we live after the Toy Biz era, which were larger scale than 3 3/4 inch, in the Marvel Legends and McFarlane DC 6-inch obsession. So now we have all of our action figures of superheroes starting at 6 inches and going up to Hot Toys 12-inch scale and even larger. So as a kid, we got used to the idea that G.I. Joe, Star Wars, Buck Rogers, Indiana Jones, those were all 3 3/4 inch that required vehicles and things like that. But once you got into characters in tights and capes, you needed to go up in scale. So that Toys R Us set, I mean, yeah, it was a purpose-built Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends 3-figure gift set, but it was a little lackluster. It was a little bit of an anticlimax, if I'm being honest. I never even went and picked it up. I didn't even think the figures looked all that great. But now we have all 3 figures in true Marvel Legends form. But they didn't come directly as an Amazing Friends trio. I argue they should have, but they didn't. They came in very different ways. We'll start with Firestar. Firestar was an online exclusive that came in a traditional Marvel Legends action figure box. And she came with Miss Lion, so we know for a fact that this is supposed to be an Amazing Friends tribute figure, but she also came with an alternate head, alternate hands, and some superpower flame effects for her wrists. The background of the box is the secret apartment hideout from the show, so we know this is a tribute figure for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. However, there were some concessions made to this figure. Most notably, she comes with a large pop-up collar that's indicative of her comic book costume and not the original cartoon costume. And she comes with an alternate head that happens to look more like the comic book with the windswept flying hair that's a little bit more dynamic. But thankfully, she comes with the other head that is styled more like the 1980s cartoon that we're all more familiar with. The other drawback, of course, to this more modern comic costume for Firestar is that the large collar prevents her head from moving around, because her hair on the classic head constantly jams up against the collar, preventing neck movement from side to side. Iceman comes from the retro X-Men figure line in the Toy Biz tribute packaging. Iceman was intended to be a character for the X-Men line. He actually came costumed with the white X belt that you saw on the original Toy Biz figure. He does come with a nice understated appearance that isn't overly stylized like previous Iceman figures have been. He looks very close to the cartoon model, although I wish they'd have given him just a little bit more of a blue tint in the final mold. And finally, we have the first Marvel Legends Spider-Man that could fit in with a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends trio, and that's the Retro Collection Spider-Man for the 1990s animated series. Now, while he comes with 2 heads, one of the heads has a more squinty-eyed appearance, which some people believe is more retro and therefore more accurate to a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends depiction, but I don't actually see it that way. It looks more 1960s animated series, more Steve Ditko, but it doesn't doesn't look Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I prefer the stock head that comes with the figure right out of the box. Spider-Man and Iceman both have butterfly joints in their shoulders, and they have a lot of articulation going on, but quite frankly, I've never found Marvel Legends figures to be as posable as I would like, especially in the Spider-Man department. A few years ago, I tried to put together a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends action figure trio from the old Marvel Legends Toy Biz sets. I used the Toy Biz Iceman, I used the Toy Biz classic Snapshot Spider-Man that is based on John Romita's iconic artwork. And I planned to repaint a Dark Phoenix action figure as Firestar, but I never quite got around to it. Flash forward a few years later, and I find a really nice Firestar custom based off a Marvel Legends Hasbro figure on eBay and add her to the trio with the Dark Phoenix's flame stand still in the background. Ultimately, I think the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Iceman looks closer to the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends depiction of Iceman. It has a bluer tinge to it, and he comes with a really cool ice blast thing he can stand on, which looks far more indicative of the cartoon. The Snapshot Spider-Man, yes, he doesn't look that great when he's just standing, but you don't want Spider-Man just standing, you want him to be doing something really cool and dynamic. And this particular Spider-Man not only looks very close to the original cartoon, but it also looks more dynamic when posed. He can do more. And it's really important for a Spider-Man to be able to do something that differentiates him from the other characters in a superhero figure display. All in all, the Marvel Legends figures that have come together unofficially to make the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends trio are a welcome addition to my collection. Are they as fun to look at as the custom trio I kind of cobbled together from various lines? I would say not quite. They do look more polished, they do look more finished, and I do prefer the manufactured Firestar here over the custom, even though the custom is quite nice. But one day I hope they release a purpose-built 3-pack of these figures that makes the necessary modifications. Deletes the belt from Iceman so you don't have to use a heat gun to get it off or cut it off. Gives him a nice blue tinge on top of that. Deletes Firestar's comic book collar so her head can move better. And then provide Iceman and Firestar with their respective ice and fire flows. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is still a fondly remembered cartoon by Generation X, who are the majority of action figure collectors right now. A purpose-built 3-pack of those figures, those heroes from that show, could not go amiss at Hasbro, and I highly doubt they would be peg warmers. So Hasbro,
Go for it!
thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to see more videos about Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, you can watch our full retrospective on the original cartoon at the link above. Or you can watch our complete history on Pride of the X-Men in the link below. And now I'm gonna have to figure out which trio combination gets to remain in my toy display.